Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan C. Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan C. Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Kirby, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scream with Ryan C. Showers podcast, where the film critic meets the Scream fan twice a week, every Tuesday and Friday. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Before I go any further, I need to thank the producers and administrators of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. First, I need to thank TJ Jones, who does all of the graphic design work from the podcast. Also, I need to thank Ashley Summers, Mark Vieira, Sarah Campbell, and Sam Levy for helping me keep the podcast and Patreon community afloat. Thank you to everybody who subscribes to the Patreon at any and every tier. I'm an independent entity, so any bit of support that comes into the Patreon goes back into the podcast. Joining the Patreon gets you ad-free and early access to every episode, as well as the opportunity to join the community of the show. We have group chats across social media. In particular, Instagram is really the hub of the podcast community. More importantly, joining the Patreon is the vessel in which you would use to come onto the podcast, either in a one-on-one situation with me or a small panel. In addition, there's a guaranteed invite every month to a big group Zoom recording about a Scream topic. An exciting feature of the podcast is the audio commentary episodes. Every Scream fan knows what it was like listening to Wes Craven do the audio commentaries for the original trilogy and Scream 4, with Marianne Maddalena and Kevin Williamson and Patrick Lussier. And what I'm trying to do for my Patreon subscribers is I am going to be performing an audio commentary of a Scream or a Scream-related movie, one per month, every month. And my goal is to try to approach these as I'm doing deep analytical analysis about the characters, about the themes, about just general reaction. So it's something that I'm really proud of and I hope continues to be a cherished part of the podcast. So the commentary is available as a normal podcast episode for anybody to listen to like they would any other podcast, but it will also be available as a video watch along. So everybody, please go over to Patreon, subscribe to Scream with RCS. I would be eternally grateful. So I need to go through and thank everybody over at Patreon who is subscribed as a stab investor or a daddy/mama Ghostface. So the daddy/mama Ghostface of the Patreon are Carrie Tenney, Brett Janovich, Corey Wilson, and Stevie Shears. The stab investors include Allie, Amar Karim, Tamika Jones, David D, Gustavo Mora, Jess Mariano, Joey Nobarini, aka The Vault, Josh Calamari, Josh Carr, Scream Queens podcast, both Josh and Justine, The Horror Project podcast, Kevin Abner, Mark Vieira, PWO5, aka Philip Douglas, Quentin Harrison, and Sam Levy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers, and thank you for joining me for today's episode. So this is an October release, and I'm so excited because I love Halloween. I love it so, so much. And this podcast was partially born in the Blumhouse era of Halloween, of the Halloween series starring Jamie Lee Curtis. And even though that franchise has a mixed reputation, I am still a huge sucker for it. So today we're going to be doing a very special episode. I'll explain the topic in a minute, but to help me with this episode, I have one of my favorite people to do podcasts with. Everyone, please welcome Anthony DiPuzzo. Hey, Anthony.
Hey, Ryan. I'm so happy to be back for this episode. Halloween and Scream are my favorites, so I'm very amped.
Well, so Anthony, you and I did an episode with Amar Karim, who sadly could not make it tonight in August, about H2O and Halloween H2O, which is the 7th movie in the Halloween franchise. And notably, it's the movie where Jamie Lee Curtis returns to the lead role of Laurie Strode. And we compared Halloween H2O and the structure and the specific scenes of Halloween H2O to what could potentially happen in Scream 7, or how H2O could inspire Scream 7. And we kind of looked at like scene by scene things about that movie and said, do we think the same thing could happen in Scream 7, yay or nay? And it was an awesome episode. It was such a cool take on how to predict Scream 7. So luckily, Jamie Lee Curtis did not just come back to the franchise once. She came back twice. And we are going to be doing the second movie where she came back to Halloween. Since Scream 7 is going to be the movie where Neve Campbell returns to Scream, we're going to do the same thing. In fact, Neve Campbell herself has compared Scream 7 as wanting to achieve what Halloween 2018 did for Halloween for Scream. So today we are going to be doing how how could Halloween 2018 inspire Scream 7? Anthony, I'm really happy to be doing this sequel episode with you.
I cannot wait. This is going to be so much fun. I had a blast on the H2O episode. It's going to be cool to see the comparisons to this one.
Yeah. So I just have a question for you, just curiosity before we get going. So you and me, we've done a lot of episodes together. We've done episodes with Amar and with others. Do you have a favorite episode that we've done?
Ooh, that is a really...
I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
For some reason, I really loved our Scream 6 one when we graded each episode. That was just fun to like really get into it because we really had a good I know I had to get a lot of good critiques, but I liked the Halloween. I liked the one we also we did another Halloween episode that I remember having a really good time with. I mean, it was comparing the trilogy. I thought that was a really good episode, and I really liked the ones with Amar too when we did the episodes. I think I'm partially I know we did 4 and 5, so I really like the grading episodes a lot, but the Halloween ones we did too are really fun.
I have to go back and count every episode you've been on because I forgot about that episode.
Yeah, that was good.
That was this time last year that released. That's right. I loved that episode. Oh my God. The one where we talked about like Laurie and H2O, Sydney and Scream 3.
It was good, man.
Fucking fantastic episode. Oh gosh. Okay, cool. So Anthony, we are going to be joined by my producer, TJ, for this main topic. Before we do everything in terms of analyzing Scream 7 and Halloween 2018, I would like to go through my special new Halloween speed round questions with you, my Hallow Scream speed round. I want to, set this up for you. What is your Halloween story?
Yeah, for sure. Halloween is my favorite movie of all time. I believe I was around 6 years old. I had my parents didn't censor really anything for me. My grandpa showed me Jaws at 3 and Salem's Lot at like 3 and 4. So those are like my first horror movies, but my dad I think my mom was having one of those demonstration parties to get like the neighbors over downstairs, and we were like upstairs. My dad's like, let's go rent a movie. Do you know who Michael Myers is? And he's like, do you know the Boogeyman? I'm like, no, who's the Boogeyman? So we went to the video store and we rented Halloween, the OG, when I was like 6 years old. And we went upstairs into my sister's bedroom and he popped it in. And I remember just like falling in love, but I was like scared, but also so into it. I was like, I have to go to the bathroom. I was like creeping in to look because I was so scared. So ever since then, I was obsessed with it. I kept renting it and renting it and renting it every time I went to the video store. I'm old, so we still went to the video store back in the day. And it was to a point where they were like, do you just want to buy this? Because you rent it every single time. And then it's funny because after a certain amount of times, my mom's like, why don't we watch this new hip one, Scream? So then like it's very nice because my dad introduced me to Halloween and my mom introduced me to Scream, and those both are my favorites. And now I will always cherish those memories of watching the Halloween movies, especially the Jamie Lee Curtis ones with my dad, because unfortunately he's no longer with us, but I'll cherish that. And it was just like an event when you went to a video store on a Friday night and you got something and you just experienced it with your family. It was so much fun. But yeah, ever since then, Halloween's literally been my favorite movie of all time, and Scream's been my favorite franchise of all time. So I have to thank my parents for that.
So you consider Halloween, the original, your favorite number one movie of all time, but Scream, your favorite franchise.
Yep.
That's a nice way to split the difference.
Yep.
So can I ask, what was your dad's favorite Halloween sequel?
His favorite Halloween sequel, he's like me. He really loved, he loved Halloween 2 because it really felt like similar in tone. And that is my favorite Halloween sequel. We're talking about the original Halloween 2 from 1981. But he also loved Jamie Lee Curtis so much. So he was really a H2O guy.
Awesome.
He's very much an H2O guy.
Love
And he
it.
liked the new trilogy. We love the new trilogy too. Kills is his least favorite. He's very much like me. That's also my least favorite, the new trilogy. But I was nervous about Ends, but he fell in love with Ends, and he loved 2018 because obviously he loves the original.
Okay, good. We love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's so nice. I didn't know that about your dad, but I'm glad that you have those memories with him. In terms of Scream and Halloween, I think they're synonymous. I view them as like fitting together like puzzle pieces. But how do you associate Scream with Halloween?
Kevin Williamson made Scream as a tribute to Halloween. Halloween's also his favorite movie, or horror movie at least. And I mean, it's in the opening scene, this reference with Casey Becker, she says her favorite movie is Halloween, that's Kevin's nod to that. And the movie literally plays in the movie Scream. So that is how they're so connected. And Jamie Lee Curtis is referenced as the Scream Queen. And obviously they're very different characters, but you do have similarities between Laurie Strode and Sidney Prescott. And they are, arguably the two most popular final girls in horror history. And I always felt like, even with the sequels, like I know Halloween goes off the deep end, but they always have been like so similar with me. I can even compare, H2O, that ending, to the Scream 3 ending with the hand holding. Same with Ends. feel like we're going to obviously talk about Halloween 2018 and Scream 7. So there's a lot of comparisons. I think they're very relatable.
Well, I love that. And I agree with you. And like there was this episode I did, it was like episode like 77, 78, where we compared Scream 3 and H2O. That is on the list of episodes I would love to redo. That now that like, you know, I've talked about this on the show, like to do like a Ryan's version of that. So maybe next year Anthony and Ryan will
Awesome.
redo that. Okay. So how do you rank Scream, Halloween, Nightmare, and Friday the 13th?
Okay, so it's going to be Scream first, then Halloween. We're talking franchises or movies?
Franchises.
Okay, yeah. So Scream, Halloween, Nightmare, Friday the 13th.
Cool. All right. So let's do the Halloween questions and then we'll do Hallow Scream and then we're
Okay.
going to welcome on my podcast husband. So, okay, let's do it. So Halloween, better Laurie comeback, H2O or 2018?
It's H2O.
Okay. Favorite Laurie child, Jamie, John, or Karen?
It's Joe.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Take that, everybody. Suck
Just
it.
because
Okay.
Jamie's not with Laurie Strode in any of the movies. And I do love Danielle Harrison 4 and 5, but it's John. That relationship in H2O is so special to me.
People say that Anthony and I have the exact same taste, and we are clearly not doing anything to dissuade those rumors. So, okay. Favorite 80s sequel?
It's Halloween 2.
Nice.
It's got to be Halloween 2.
Preferred Blumhouse sequel, Kills or Ends?
Ends, hands down.
All right. Preferred Rob Zombie movie?
This isn't to be crazy, but I think Halloween 2 is super weird, and I actually felt emotion in that movie. So I'm going to go with Halloween 2. I think the 2007 remake he has his unique ideas, but you can see the studio meddling, and I feel like the second half is a super rushed version of the original, and the first half, we get too much explanation, and I feel like he just should have done full Rob Zombie. Like, he didn't commit to either side, so it's a little bit of a mess. But Halloween 2, I think it's one of the best shot movies in the franchise, to be honest with you, and I think it's mean, and I think the Annie Brackett death scene is one of the most devastating death scenes in horror history.
Nice. No, I agree. So I think it's a very cool movie. So I can stomach 2. I can't stomach 1. All right, preferred unconventional movie, Season of the Witch or Halloween Ends?
Halloween Ends.
Okay. Michael and Laurie, siblings or no siblings?
Listen, I grew up with them being siblings, so I'm going siblings.
Yeah. Favorite timeline?
It's going to be the Halloween 2, and I guess if you have to include Resurrection, you can. I grew up with that nostalgic for me, and I think it's special with the connection between them two.
So my producer is waiting in the wings, and he and I severely disagree about this. Do we annex Resurrection and have it just be a nice trilogy, or do we include Resurrection? Anthony, what do you say?
Listen, if I could choose, I would axe it, but to me, it's like it's there, it exists. So like I'm also like a completist, so you have to. But I really hate what they do with Laurie in that. So what I do is I'm like Halloween 2, H2O, prop it up so much that you can have a dog shit Resurrection and it'd be fine. And after the opening, it's like stupid fun. It's just like it's so bad, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Favorite Michael Myers mask?
I mean, it's the OG, but after the OG, I like the original too. But I mean, 2018 is fucking awesome as well.
Yeah.
So, but so was the
Awesome.
OG.
1978 best friend preference, Annie or Linda?
Annie.
Okay, love it. Favorite sequence from any movie in Halloween?
Oof. I mean, the cliche in me is going to say once Michael appears from the shadows in the original and he gets the chase down the stairs. It's one of my favorite chase scenes. But I also really like my fist pump favorite scene, which gives me chills every time, is when Laurie grabs that axe in H2O and she walks up to the campus and she just screams Michael. So those are definitely my favorite two, hands down.
Nice. All right, let's go to now Hallow Scream, and then we'll get into the main topic. So this is Halloween versus Scream. So, okay, superior final girl, Laurie Strode or Sidney Prescott?
I mean, we know the answer. Sidney Prescott.
Well, I've only done these questions with a handful of people so far. You're probably like the fourth person. And besides me, everyone else has picked Laurie Strode, including the fucker that's about to join us. So
It's Sidney Prescott.
it's Sidney fucking Prescott, okay? To quote her, to quote Sidney herself. So, okay, superior final professional, Dr. Loomis or Gail Weathers?
I'm gonna get hate because I am it's Gail Weathers. She has a more consistent structure throughout the franchise, but I mean Loomis in the OG 2 is next level. But it's Gail.
Okay, so superior related to evil reboot replacement lead, Jamie Lloyd or Sam Carpenter?
Jamie Lloyd.
Okay. Superior family storyline, Sidney and Maureen Prescott or Michael and Laurie?
I have to go with Michael and Laurie just because, I have to. I have to go with Michael and Laurie.
You're the first person to pick them, which is fun. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Which reboot with a new lead did you like more, Scream 5 or Halloween 4?
Oof, that is so difficult for me to answer that one.
These are hard questions.
Yes. I think I'm going to say, I might have to go with Halloween 4.
Okay. Michael Myers or Ghostface?
Michael Myers, just because he is the ultimate horror icon. Ghostface was the more popular when I grew up. Again, it would be Michael and Ghostface number 2. But yeah, Michael is the slasher icon.
Okay. And last question. Overall, Scream or Halloween?
Scream is the most consistent horror franchise of all time. It has the best character arcs in any horror slasher movie. It's hands down Scream. Although Halloween has also, it's my second favorite franchise. I love all of them, even the bad, the good, the ugly. But Scream is just something special because of the characters and how it develops through these last 30 years now. And we followed, for the most part, actually, we followed the same characters for all 6 movie scales in every movie. And I just think it's something special that, as much as people don't like to say this, we do have someone who is the face of a franchise just as much as its villain, and that's Sidney Prescott. So it's special to me.
Love it. Oh my gosh. Well, on that note, TJ, are you there? TJ, I'm going to call him if he doesn't.
I'm coming.
is.
I got
The sunglasses, LA. What the
Look,
hell?
when you call last minute, you get sunglasses, Producer Jones. All right? This is how I fill in.
You are filling in for sure. So I have to be on my best behavior. I'm with Anthony.
Please,
I can't lose
for
this
Anthony.
guy.
Can I just say real quick? Anthony, with respect, you are a incredibly handsome man.
He
So
is.
the way you avoid the sexual harassment from Ryan C. Showers, I don't know. But
That's
good for you
because-
for
What's up with
somehow
that?
shielding that.
That's because Anthony shows me respect, unlike you.
But that's right. You do
Oh, this
like
is going to be fun. This is going to be fun.
God. Sorry, Anthony. I'll apologize ahead of time.
Maybe you're the problem, TJ. Have you ever heard the Taylor Swift song Antihero? It's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me.
I'm the solution, baby.
That was good. That was
Thanks.
good, TJ. So, TJ, Anthony, TJ.
Anthony, nice to meet you, man. I love hearing you on the pod.
This has been a long time coming. I'm excited.
Yeah. Here we go.
Cool. Well, so, gents, let's talk just about Halloween 2018. So, this is the sequel, of course, to the H2O episode. Love that episode. Think it's wonderful. I wasn't going to do this episode. And then that episode with H2O had such a great response from people that people wanted to see and hear, this same formula and the same concept applied to another movie. And we were going to do a new Nightmare. I may still do it. I don't know. It's not the same. But because Neve Campbell herself has specifically cited Halloween 2018 as the movie that they're trying to aspire to be. So let's just, what do we think of the comparison of Halloween 2018 and Scream 7? Anthony, what are your thoughts just generally?
I think it's going to be like, Halloween 2018 was the big 40 years later. Scream 7 is going to be the big 30 years later. So I think that's where the comparisons start. And while Jamie Lee Curtis has a little bit of a head start on Neve because she returned, for the first time since 2002 in Resurrection, which was, a bad send-off. Neve did come back for Scream 5 in 2022, even in a limited role. So it's not going to be that big of the return of Neve Campbell. I kind of also think it is because she really hasn't been a lead since the OG trilogy. So it's going back to her story, her family. She's going to be front and center, not only just in the marketing, but in the movie as well. So I think that's where the comparisons start. I don't think we'll get into it, obviously, but I do think that she's not going to be the Laurie Strode that we met in 2018. So it's going to be very different. But I think just the fact that it's going to be Sidney Prescott and Ghostface, much like, Laurie Strode and Michael Myers in 2018 is going to be the big, big, big event. They're going to make it an event with the marketing like they did with 2018 for sure.
Yeah. TJ, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with Anthony. I hope that they don't go the route of Sidney being, the Sarah Connor kind of traumatized, post-traumatic person, Dewey in Scream 5, if you will. I think the more that we can have her in a place of grounded happiness, the more fun it will be to see when Ghostface comes back into her life. And in terms of things that jump out to me in the 7 minutes I've had to plan for talking about this podcast, can we tell the people that I was the last minute call-in? Is that important? I mean, I think that's kind of important.
It is. This is important to note. So Mark Harim wasn't able to join us at the last minute. So TJ happened to be texting me. He's probably like, damn, I'm regretting those texts right now. And I was like, hey, what you doing? So TJ, you want to elaborate?
Yeah, just give me Amar's address and I'll send him my invoice for how much I'm charging to be his fill-in. Back to the comparison. I think that the fact that, Laurie and her granddaughter and that kind of dual worlds obviously probably will mirror Sidney and her daughter and the fact of the adult and the high school friend group. So that clearly would be something I think will have its own version but will look pretty similar. And then I think that even though I hope, and I think Anthony as well, that Sidney is not in the bad place place that Laurie is in 2018, I think there will still be a reverence for her as a person in that world in the same way that there is for Laurie, where kind of everyone in her orbit is aware that she is this person that has gone through this incredible situation. And I think that kind of gravity around her will be similar to Sydney in this world. And I think people will be very aware that Sydney Prescott moved to their little town of Pine Grove, Indiana. And I think that she will be somewhat of a local celebrity, whether she likes it or not. And I'm sure that her reputation will precede her in ways that influences her relationships with characters from the town who have all these preconceived notions about her as a person and what she's been through. So in that way, I think it'll probably mirror 2018 as well.
Well, so like the H2O episodes, but I have literally 25 bullet points for us to go through and to give like a thumbs up or thumbs down to. Before we get there, I want to just ask, I want to get it out on the table where we stand with 2018, because like, you know, TJ, you confuse me. You mystify me when it comes to 2018. So Anthony, why don't you kick us off? Set the stage. How do you feel about 2018?
I mean, 2018, when it came out, it was like my most anticipated movie. I was like, oh, Halloween's back, like the real Halloween's back. So I remember going to see it for the first time in the theater, and I left like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I guess my adrenaline was going, emotions everywhere. So I'm like, it was good, but I'm like, why don't I feel like so amped? And then the more I rewatched, I'm like, yes, this is awesome. I think there's some like things you can nitpick, but overall, while I do think it's the safest of the David Gordon Green trilogy, I think it was the throwback to the OG we needed to, you know, get the franchise back. And that's the reason why it's, you know, the highest grossing slasher of all time. So I loved it. Obviously, my favorite part is the third act with Laurie and Michael. I maybe wish I always want my chase scenes in horror, and we didn't really, like, I think there was a missed opportunity for an Allison chase scene. We had that awesome score, and then it kind of just fluttered out. But overall, I think they balanced the subtlety of the OG with today's, like, you know, we need the violence. I think they balanced that well. But overall, I think it's fun. I think some of the comedy was a little bit too much, like a little bit cringy lines, but overall, I think it's a very well-structured throwback to the OG, even though it does play it, you know, pretty safe.
What about you, TJ? So TJ and I recorded the episode so this is coming out on Tuesday the 14th. We recorded the episode that came out last week on the 7th, and he was, just from his exclamation, I was just shocked. Like, he did not seem generous to the Blumhouse. So TJ, set it up.
I've been sober for a
Reveal
little
yourself.
over 2 years, and I'm about to relapse as we sit here and talk about Halloween 2018. That's how bad I
Really?
feel.
Really? Okay.
In 2018, I'm definitely pretty down on 2018, and it's one of those movies that comes around that you like want to love, that you keep watching, like you just watch over and over, like what I want it to work for me. And there are obviously things about it that are done well, in my opinion. And I think ultimately I agree with Anthony. Some of the cringe comedy, it just feels so far cry from the tone of John Carpenter that, like, the peanut butter on my penis bullshit and the banh mi sandwich conversation, it just like cut it, just get it out of there. Like, little things like that, I just can't imagine they were watching it and being like, oh yes, this feels like a faithful tonal follow-up to the original. And then, you know, I think Laurie as a character is, I think had they kept to canon, it would make a little more sense that she was in this crazy of a place. Because, like, I mean, obviously the events of Just One are 1 in a billion traumatic event for anyone. But, like, people go through traumatic shit, man. People, you know, there's lots of violence and crazy shit that happens in the world. And the fact that she was just this, like, shell of a human being, I think was like a disservice to her as a character and as a person. And I think there was a balance they could have found where she was obviously very affected, but also somewhat still functioning in society, to not be this like recluse living in the woods. Because I thought at some point that got to be like a bit of a caricature. There were some cool moments. I think there's that nice oneer in the neighborhood that's pretty cool, right? Where he's going through the house and stuff. Hated that, like, maybe the biggest scare of the movie when he's in the closet was spoiled in like all the TV spots and trailers. It's like, give me a fucking break. And you know, the one thing that I actually like about the movie that most people who like the movie don't like is I don't even know the doctor's name, Dr. Sarcophagus. I like the Sartain twist. I thought that twist was
too.
I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting, and I didn't expect it. And so that is one part of the movie where I actually like give it some points. So yeah, I just wish they would have gotten a different creative team to do that trilogy. I don't know the director's name off the top of my head, but whenever I've watched it 2 or 3 times, but the movie It Follows, when I watched that, I'm like, holy shit, like the style and tone of that movie to me feels so John Carpenter 1978. So I just wish, like, instead of getting some comedy guys, they would have gotten some more kind of moody tonal horror guys to do it. So There we go.
Well, so I mean, I'm kind of in between you two about this, is like because like I started out back in 2018 on TJ's side, and then slowly I've evolved to be like Anthony. I was really hard on Halloween 2018 back in the day. It was imagine me with Scream 6, and imagine my specific frustration with Gale as it pertains to Scream 6 amplified for an entire movie, and the added love that I felt like H2O was betrayed. That was me about 2018, and I've slowly started to warm up to it where I can watch it. If I try not to associate it as like in that continuity. I view it as like chapter 1 of its own story. So, and that's not what I want for Scream 7. So let's transition now to Scream 7. So right off the bat, the claim to fame with Halloween 2018 was the fact that it was ignoring all of the sequels and that they weren't brother and sister. This was a completely fresh take and that blah, 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 blah. So I think that we're all going to be in agreement here. But like, do we agree that this is probably not going to be the case for Scream 7? Anthony?
Will never be the case for Scream. Continuity is one of the most important things in Scream. So no, don't ever do that. It's not happening.
Okay. TJ?
Agree with Anthony. Agree with you. What
Okay,
Ryan
so
said.
here's a question though. I'm going to just push us a little bit. Sam and Tara, will they be mentioned, referenced? How will they be referenced? Or do they not mention them at all? I'm going to just say they're not going to be referenced at all. I think it's just going to fly by. They're not going to be dissed, but they're just not going to be spoken of. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
The only reason I think they might be mentioned is because the Chad and Mindy of it all. I don't know if they're going to give a little throwaway line or like, I don't know, but I don't see them not being mentioned. I really don't.
Okay.
I think they're going to be mentioned. Yeah.
Second thing is the Halloween 2018 opens with our original villain in prison, long-time prisoner, whatever, in a mental whatever. Do we think that could be something similar with Scream 7? Like, for instance, could we see, I don't know, Matthew Lillard, aka Stu, in prison in the same way that we see Michael? TJ, what do you think?
I never thought the Matthew Lillard of it all meant he was still alive. Who knows what that actually means? But one thing that did catch my attention, because I remember, and I don't know if we want to get too much into like rumors and stuff, but I guess there was some rumor of like Sydney in 7 is like leaving some sort of mental institution at some point, right? Wasn't there something floating around about that, Ryan? Right? Okay. So I remember thinking maybe that's bullshit and like, I don't know, not putting a whole lot of stock into it. But then when I was reading the book, Your Favorite Scary Movie, they had that beat where they're talking about Scream 4 and they mentioned that they intentionally have Jill's eye twitch at the very last shot of Scream 4. And I was like, I never knew that. And I was like, well, that would make a lot of sense, actually, since Jill is, her niece, that she would be visiting family if Jill, in fact, did survive. That makes a way more sense to me than it being Stu in the mental institution. So that's my answer.
Side note, before I go to Anthony, I don't love that opening for Halloween 2018. I think it's a weird way to open the movie. I've never liked it. I don't like the way that it ends with the dogs howling.
Why does he stand behind him? Why does he stand behind him with the mask? He can walk forward around him in the square and show him the mask. Instead, he stands behind him. It makes no sense.
All right. So,
sorry,
Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, no, we're not going to open in a mental institution with surviving ghosts. It's very different with this because Michael is the big bad of the entire franchise, whereas Scream we have a bunch of different killers. And I agree with TJ. I don't think I hope to God Stu's not alive. But I don't think that he's alive. It's going to be like whatever rumor AI or whatever throwback stuff. But I think we're going to have a really, really good throwback to a pan in on a house, and we're going to have an epic, hopeful chase scene like along the lines of Casey Becker and have a traditional opening. A nice throwback to what made Scream scary.
Nice. Well, but the thing is, I would be remiss, TJ brought it up. I didn't. No spoilers. But a big part of Halloween, the new trilogy, was this mental patient, specifically Halloween Kills. It's like the mental patient is kind of like the centerpiece of the arc of the movie. There's a rumor going around about mental patients in Scream 7, specifically with Gale Weathers, and TJ already referenced that Sydney and Gale, that they were known to be going out of a mental hospital while they filmed in Atlanta. So, what do we think about this idea of like this tie with the mental patients of it all, Anthony?
I'm kind of like thrown off by it. I have seen a rumor where I saw a certain actor that is going to be in Scream 7 mentioned as the one in a mental institution. I don't know if you want to get into that, but I'm just kind of curious if they have a theory that someone in there is behind it, or if Gail's doing her, investigative journalism and it leads her there. But I don't know. I think what I'm thinking is something goes wrong and maybe someone is taken out who's not the real Ghostface that has to do with the mental institution, and then they're thrown off, I don't know, mid-movie or what, but I'm kind of really, like, thrown off guard with the whole mental institution aspect of it, especially with Sydney being part of it too. I can see Gail doing investigating, but I don't know, that's kinda throwing me off a little bit.
So TJ, does evil die tonight in Scream?
Man, when Anthony said ends was his favorite with a bullet, it broke my heart.
He's my guy.
I know. No, again, I think it also kind of threw me off, and it wasn't until, again, I read that piece of the book where they kind of intentionally left it that Jill could be alive, which is just something I haven't heard in the discourse very much, that, like, that's a thing. And so maybe it's not, but it just struck me as, again, because of the familial tie, that makes more sense. And there could be, in a very Clarice, Hannibal Lecter, like, they're trying to figure out who the killer is, so who's the one person they know that put on the mask that might, like, give them insight as to who it might be. So, like, them visiting, hypothetically, a Jill at the mental institution to be, like, sliding the info underneath the thing and her looking at, like, that. I mean, it's, like, kind of ridiculous and, like, a bit trite, but, like, that could be kind of fun. I think we'd all like to see Emma Roberts wilding out behind a glass,
So, okay. That's TJ's word, Anthony. He likes to say violent.
I like it.
So, note, Emma Roberts has not been confirmed for Scream 7, but Scott Foley and Matthew Lillard have. Thumbs up. Okay, so moving on. We've already kind of briefly touched this, but the personality of the final girls. Laurie Strode, very intense, very paranoid as a final girl here. She's kind of defined as a bad mom, at least to Karen. At least she previously has been. So she's defined as a very flawed person. She has alcohol issues. So we see her shooting her guns, like really appearing like Linda Hamilton, like you guys said earlier, not trusting people at all. And, also having fraught relationships with Karen. And then there's a weird relationship with Allison where it's tender, but also Allison pushes back at her at times and wants to understand her. So how much of this do we think we'll see with Sidney Prescott? My answer is a no. I think Sidney is going to be the antithesis of this. And I think this is the difference between Neve Campbell versus Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis wanted to play a very extreme version of Laurie. Neve Campbell probably wants to play a more subtle version of Sidney. TJ, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're going to see her as a mother figure that is a lot warmer, and I think they're going to have fun if, in fact, I'm not sure if it's been confirmed the daughter's named Tatum, but, like, I think that's pretty much all but confirmed, right? Like, I think they're going to have fun with that dynamic of when the daughter is wilding out. There will be an element of, like, well, you named her Tatum. What did you think was going to happen? And so there will be a kind of fun back and forth with the fact that her daughter is exhibiting these traits of her best friend that is kind of a partier and a bit of a loose cannon. So I think while she will be warm, I think she will have to, lay down the law and try and reflect her own experience in high school with her daughter, which up until the murders start happening will be a very difficult thing, I imagine, for her to do because their experiences were so different. But certainly once people start dying, she will be able to really, maybe that's the part of the movie where their relationship finally, like, clicks into place. It's like once her daughter loses a friend, that's when they can really bond of, like, I have been through this before. So, yeah, that's my answer.
So, the moment in Halloween 2018 at the end, at the very end, whenever Laurie joins Karen in the basement, and it's a really intense close up on Jamie Lee Curtis, and she says, I'm really sorry that I did this to you. I'm sorry that I raised you like this. I think that we're going to see something very similar to that, but in Sidney Prescott speak. I don't think Sidney Prescott would ever apologize to Tatum for raising her a certain way, because I don't think Sidney would raise her in a way that, Laurie did. But I think there's going to be a moment of understanding, a moment of, like, where they both are very vulnerable. So, Anthony, what do you think about the personality of the final girls and their relationships with their daughters?
Yeah, Sydney's not going to be like Laurie. Laurie was literally like a doomsday prepper in 2018, and I don't think she would raise her kid like she raised Karen. It literally, like, led Karen to leave. I think we're not going to see the on board, Sidney Prescott of Scream 5. I think we're going to get a nice blend of Scream 5 Sidney with Scream 3 Sidney, because she is going to deal with her family in peril. So she's prepared because she's Sidney Prescott. So she's not like Laurie. She's always she's not frantic in a mess. She's always been well put together no matter how much trauma she's been through. So I think we're going to see the I've been through this of Scream 5, let's get it, but also my family's at stake, so she's going to be more vulnerable, like she was in the original trilogy. It's going to be a nice blend where, it's going to feel not safe for her because it's hitting the closest to home it can for her, but she's not going to be like Laurie at all. She's going to be prepared. She probably, I don't know if she trained her kids, but I'm sure they're aware of some stuff, but I think her parenting style is going to be the complete opposite of Lori. I don't want her to be like Lori because Sydney is not like that. She's completely different.
Even just look at the patience that Sydney has, the control that Sydney has over her
Right.
own emotions. Even this way that she talks to Angelina in the bathroom stall, like, the worst possible time someone could fangirl out to her, she is still nice and calm with her. I just think that, like, in that match that with like the way that she even interacts with Jill in Scream 4, I just don't think Sydney's going to be, I don't think she's going to be a bad mom. I think she's actually going to be a great mom. Protective, yes. Controlling, yes. But I think she's going to be a nicer mom than, say, Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode in H2O. So nothing like the Laurie Strode that we see here. So I think the personalities will be different. Okay, here's an interesting one. Let's catch up the audience on stuff that happened in the past, aka flashbacks or montages. Do we think we're going to see anything like that in Scream 7? Up until this point, we've never really had that in Scream before. Halloween 2018 did this. So Anthony, what are your thoughts?
I'm more of a hope it's like a kind of in the moment show us how wholesome the family is. I'm not trying to get too hokey with too many flashbacks. I don't want to get too soap opera-y. I could see maybe the only flashback we might get is something to do with Dewey, but I even prefer with Dewey, like him taunting Gail and Sydney via AI, voice call or something. I'm not even too stoked on a flashback of that. If it is a flashback with Dewey, I would hope it takes place in between, somewhere right before, Scream 5. I don't want to go too far back. But yeah, I'm not really too into too many flashbacks. I just want to see everything in the moment. I want to be present with everything. I don't want to go back too much because we're going to go back with all these killers, returning in some form. So that's enough for me. I don't need to go back in the past too much. Let's move forward.
I like montages in movies often. I do, but Scream's never done it, so I just don't know if it could work. But
Yeah,
I'm worried about this as it pertains to the two little girls, like the two youngest daughters, because they are not in the main storyline from what we know or what we've been told. So they're in the movie somehow, but they're just not. We don't know if they're going to be how they're going to be featured. So TJ, what are your thoughts?
I think that the series, in order for it to continue to thrive, it has to evolve and take chances and mix it up a little bit. So I think it's important, whatever choices they make, to feel like they can't just be beholden to the way the other movies have been made. Because I really think there are certain elements that even at this point feel a little bit stale of like, do we have to do it that way again? Even if it's not successful, like I don't love the fake out at the beginning of 6, particularly because the casting of Jason, I think it could have done it a lot better. So not super successful. However, I give it points for being like, we're in the 6th fucking installment of this movie. Let's try something different, And so I think that something like that, if they were to do that, I think could be really cool. Hypothetically, I don't know if you gentlemen watched the new Mission Impossible movie, but that movie, I mean, there were stretches that literally felt like a music video paying homage to the series, and I certainly wouldn't want it to go that far. But I gotta say, when done right, montage with some flashes from the past really does make it feel like a culmination and makes it, you feel the history with these characters and what they've been through. So I certainly think there's a way, whether it's Sydney sitting her daughters down to tell them like the real story of what happened or whatever the case may be. I think there's a way they could do it that would really bring some weight to the entire franchise and kind of bring it all up to the present in a way that also might, people seeing Scream 7 as their first Scream, all of a sudden they're seeing these clips and stuff and be like, oh, I'm going to go back and watch that now because that looks really interesting, So I would be pro, man, switch it up. Let's take some different stylistic choices and have some fun. Let's do it.
TJ's all about the fun, and I'm all about the gloom and the sass. So one thing, I was watching Halloween 2018 this in preparation for this, and I really enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. But one thing I realized is that it really was the king, the queen of the Easter eggs, having homages, references to the past movies. And it's ironic because like 2018, they ignored all these movies, yet we're homaging them. Weird, right? Toxic relationship, I think. So do we think that Scream 7 will recreate previous sequences with a different ending? So like, for instance, in 2018, they have the big thing where the podcasters get killed in the gas station. That's kind of a combination of Halloween 4 and H2O. What do we think? Let's go with Anthony first.
I hope we're going to get some nods, but we just did it in Scream 5, whether you think it was successful or not. We literally had a finale where the first movie took place. So I don't think we're going to, surprisingly, I don't think we're going to get too much. And I hope if we do, it's handled with the subtlety more of kind of what Wes did in 4 to the throwback to the OG with his remake, because you do have scenes that mirror it, but it kind of doesn't even feel too similar because it plays out in such a different way. So I just hope they do it in a clever way if they do, but I really think Kevin's trying to do something special and different while paying tribute to what Wes specifically did. But we really did have, I mean, Radio Silence went down again when they did a commentary like, oh, this is a nod to this one, this one, this one. So whether you like it or not, we kind of did the homage. And Scream 6 was, I mean, in my opinion, a really bad homage to the whole entirety of Scream 2 already. So I don't want to keep going back, like I said. Let's keep it fresh with having the leading lady return.
I agree. And like, you know, I think that like there's a way to capture the spirit of the original without copy and pasting the scenes. So, like in Halloween 2018 does this, you know, they revisit the cemetery, which I don't mind. That's actually, I'm fine with that. You know, Allison gets a mini chase running to the door from that cemetery through like, you know, help me, like Laurie does in the original. And like the babysitter, obviously, right? You know, clipping the nasty ass toenails. Like that's somewhat of an allusion to 1978. Like I just don't want it to go overboard. I want new shit. And like, you know, Allison in class, you know, referencing Laurie in class at the beginning. So I don't know. TJ, what are your thoughts on how close it should color to the original for Easter eggs?
Well, I'll give you the pass for not mentioning how the podcaster's death in the bathroom also mirrors Rob Zombie's Halloween 1, where he first gets the jumpsuit and kills the guy in the bathroom stall. My man Anthony knows what I'm talking about.
I don't. I'm like, I didn't even know that was a reference to that. Wow.
I would say it
sure
feels the most like that sequence. But guys, she named her daughter Tatum, okay?
No, I know.
Deal with
Brace
it.
yourselves.
This is being directed by Kevin Williamson. I do think they hopefully are more subtle. I like 6 a lot and will go to war for it. I'm not as big on the shrine of it all, even though I do like some of the functionality of the climax. I think like at some point we're just like a snake eating its tail, blowing itself, like all in this crazy, just like give me a break. So I would definitely like it to be a little more original, but there are going to be a lot of allusions to the franchise throughout, whether we like it or not. And hopefully they're more subtle. Then we're like battling amongst the relics of all the franchise, but I still think they're going to be there and we just have to deal with it.
Okay. So here's an interesting point. So with that, the reason I mentioned that is because there are allusions that there's going to be a theater scene, and there was already a theater scene in Scream 2. So I think it will be a different type of theater scene, but if there is something like that, you know, what we're discussing with Halloween 2018, I think we're going to see it again, but in a different ways. Okay. So this is a basic question. We can just do like a thumbs up, thumbs down. Will the original mask return in the same way that it does with 2018? Michael he uses his original mask from 40 years ago. Unless if Tatum was in Sydney, came to New York and picked it up off of the street, picking up the litter. You know, I don't know. I say no. TJ, what do you think?
Oh, they just did that in 6. They're not going to do that again.
Good. Anthony?
No, literally what TJ said. They literally just did that in the last movie. Nope, don't do it.
There is a really big kind of tracking shot that Halloween 2018 does, where Michael goes through and kills a bunch of people all at once. There are some hints to the past, but not really. It's something kind of fresh. Do we think Scream 7 will do something like this as a centerpiece? Anthony?
I'm all for that. Yeah, I mean, the one in 2018, I loved it because it was a throwback to my favorite sequel in Halloween 2 when he goes into the one house. But yeah, I'm for that. I hope we get, creative camera tricks in this one. I hope we get Ghostface. I know there's been, some rumors about chase scenes and stuff. I hope we get a nice one. I want chase scenes in this movie. So I'm hoping we get a nice one-er of Ghostface like wreaking havoc, or at least having a really epic chase scene and we just focus on it and hold on it. I hope that happens. That's one of my favorite parts of 2018. Thought that really showed the creativity of David Gordon Green. So I want it.
Okay. TJ, how about you?
Yeah, I think that Kevin Williamson's been waiting his whole life to direct this movie. And I think that, referencing the book again, it's fresh in my mind, but the way that a lot of the love he showed for 6 was because of the set pieces. He really loved the focus on the well choreographed and interesting dedication to set pieces. So I feel like him and the writer spent a lot of time probably on making sure they had some home run set pieces. And I think he probably heard a lot of the chatter of the Teaching Mrs. Tingle of it all. And he probably really got down and dirty. They had plenty of time in pre-production to really iron this thing out. And I think he probably got pretty clever with the camera. And I think we're going to have some really, really well-designed pieces that might surprise us and be a little more interesting and flashy than we would expect out of Mr. Dawson's Creek. So I'm excited about that.
Well, that's very funny. Next, let's go to this idea of, you mentioned Dr. Sartain. And then, by the way, Dr. Sartain, DJ, is like the most hated part of Halloween 2018. Like,
I would just comment. I kind of agree with TJ because I don't think there is anything. You can't replace Dr. Loomis. You can't replace Donald Pleasance. So I kind of like that they, twisted it on its head and they had him be, evil. He wasn't doing good. So I actually wasn't on board with him until the twist. I'm like, this is a ripoff, Dr. Loomis. This was not good. But when we revealed the twist, I'm like, oh, this is cool. And he dies anyway. So like he doesn't have to come back again. So I agree with TJ. I'm all for that.
Well, so, but at the same time, so I'm not saying I don't really care about Dr. Sartain. Like he's the last thing I have an opinion about. But he is a placeholder for a previous character in Dr. Loomis they couldn't do Dr. Loomis because he's passed, obviously. Do we think that we'll see something like that? And in regards to Scream 7, a character from the past that we can't bring back that will be replaced with stock character. TJ?
Yeah, well, it would have been great to have these questions emailed to my publicist ahead of time. But since I'm just going off the cuff here, I am going to say, with zero knowledge of anything, that because young Miss Tatum is in high school, that we are going to have an homage to Mr. Winkler, the principal, in the first one. And there will be a principal character that will somehow reflect the principal in Scream 1. And that just seems like the perfect kind of easy thing to do to reference the first one and also kind of give us an authoritative figure at the school. So yeah, I'll say that it'll probably happen, and my vote goes towards the principal.
Okay. Anthony, how about you?
I do think it's played out, but I really do think we're going to have, much like Scream 4, we're going to have like a Billy Loomis kind of situation going on with Tatum, where she has a boyfriend and Sidney doesn't trust him. So she sees herself in Tatum. So we're going to get kind of that vibe going too. While it's played out, it's kind of like story 101 as well. So I do think we're going to have I don't know if it's going to be her boyfriend or a friend or whatever, but it's going to be something like that. And I do think we're going to get another Billy Loomis kind of thing of it all. But it's not going to be, hokey visions of him. And I don't think we're going to bring the visions back. I hope not. But she's going to have a boyfriend and he's going to be suspicious because that's just how, that's how these movies work.
No, I was just going to say, do we think, I think that's really smart, Anthony. That's probably correct. Do we think that the actor from Gen V is that, because every time I see that guy, the blonde haired kind of like, he's the guy, the new cast member they've announced from Gen V who has that edgy Billy Loomis look. Just every time I've seen that guy, I've thought that would be potentially the character. He would play the kind of edgy boyfriend that we're worried about. Like, is it him or is it not?
As the lady said at Halloween 2018, we're investigative journalists, So, okay. So next, do we think that there's going to be some discussion about the psychology of the heroine being tied to Ghostface? The way that like Dr. Sartain talks about like these philosophical ideas of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers needing each other. Do we think that Sidney's psychology as it relates to Ghostface and what Ghostface has meant to her in her life, do you think that will be a part of Scream 7?
I think it's going to be talked about a little bit. I don't think as in such of like a studious way as it is in 2018. I think it's going to be something maybe where Tatum and her friends are discussing like, why are all these people always after your mom? I don't think it's going to be in such a, it kind of was a little hokey, the monologues. I don't think we're going to monologue like we did in 2018 a lot, but I do think obviously her friends are going to be like, what the hell is going on with your mom all these years? All these people are after her. So something more like that to get us to, kind of get involved with the kids a little bit.
Teach?
First of all, don't call me Teach.
I know.
Second of all,
what am I supposed to call you?
Producer, works, boss, bestie. I think that in order to get Sidney to the place that we hope she is, I don't want to speak for y'all, but I think a lot of us would like to see her in a good place to start this movie. I think it would be smart of them, and especially if this feels very 2025, to show what her routine is to establish good mental health. So I would like really not be surprised if we got a therapy scene or a couples counseling scene or a family therapy scene with I wouldn't be surprised if somehow the upkeep of her mental health for her to be in the good place is able to be the kind of prism in which we discuss some of these bigger ideas of her past and her relationship with the killings and things like that. It feels like a very Act 1 thing. I know they just did the therapy scene with Sam, but it just does feel like maybe that's a conversation she has somewhere about her life and how she, even if it's like to a best friend or something. So I think in the context of discussing her mental health, I think that could be a way they kind of clue into some of her past and her relationship with the Ghostface.
Well, also, if Stu really is going to be talked about in this movie, it's hard for me to imagine that this isn't going to happen in some respects. I think Sidney's going to spiral in some respects as it pertains to Stu. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with Sidney and Stu, because Sidney we don't really know how she felt about Stu. We know how she felt about Billy specifically because they had so much screen time together. But Stu, so that I think that there's some potential there for some digging that could happen. And maybe there's some digging that happens between Sidney and Gail. We don't know. It could happen. So, and to transition to the next point is, the arc of 2018, or like going into the finale, is that Dr. Sartain kind of manufactured this to kind of bring Michael and Laurie together, right? In some respects, he wanted Michael to, get out and into the world and start the killings again. So do we think that someone fascinated with the past, do you think that they will manufacture these events to happen because they're obsessed with it? Like, do we think that's going to be part of the motive?
That could certainly be a way they get into it. I mean, I could see a world where there is like a Roman-esque figure pulling the strings that actually is not the one doing the killings. Like, that could be kind of an interesting, like, fresh take where there was someone who did, put the buck knife in someone else's hands, so to speak, and motivate the killings, but wasn't the one doing the dirty work themselves. But I don't think it will be from a place of, I think Kevin Williamson goes to personal, I think it's going to be an emotional motive for our killers. So I don't think it'll be someone that's more fascinated with like the Ghostface psychology of it all, or obsessed with Sidney as like a fanboy or something like that. I think this is gonna tie deeply into Sydney's life, her family, something to that extent, her time in Woodsboro, someone she came in contact with along the way, that something happened that created a ripple effect that affected them, that put them on this path. So no, I think whatever it is more emotional, and that's the thing that's going to tie our killers into Sydney's journey.
Anthony, how about you?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I don't think it's going to be like a fanboy of the past. We literally also just did that, in 5, trying to create the requel. But I do think while it's not going to be a fanboy, someone obsessed, clearly going to use the past to taunt Sydney because of all these returning people back. So that's just going to be a way to get to her, like TJ said, very personally, and hit it where it hurts the most, and maybe get her all messed up in her head where she starts questioning things. Well, I don't think it's definitely not going to be someone from the past. I really don't want to kill her to be alive from the past. I think it's a little too hokey, but they're obviously going to use her past to get to her the most and really mess with her mentally. So they want to get her where it hurts. So that's definitely what's going to play out.
Okay, so in the end, Karen learns to embrace something that's difficult for her in terms of she has to go and get the gun. And then, the way that it's played by Judy Greer and the way that it's directed by David Gordon Green, since TJ forgot his name earlier, it's really dramatic. Like she has this painful look on her face. She's crying when she goes to get the gun that has her name on it. And then she gets ready and shoots Michael. And she has to embrace this thing that she's trained for, that she knows, intimately she doesn't want to face, but she has to. Do we think that this could happen with somebody? Like, namely, someone like Gale Weathers? Do we think Gale Weathers could have to confront something about herself, about her past, that she doesn't want to?
Another interesting question, Ryan. It's almost like you do this for a living. I think that would be, and this is maybe slightly tangential to your question, but it does make me think that it would be cool if, I think that the fans are craving a two-hander between her and Sydney, and I think Kevin Williamson feels an obligation to Gale to really make her critical to the story. So it would be really interesting to have Gale tie into the motive of the killer more than it just purely being like Sydney and Gale happens to be there. I know that's not quite your question, but in the event that happened where Gale was part of it as well, then certainly she could have a moment where she has to face something, because it's not just she's supporting her friend as all this chaos is happening around her. If she has to come to terms with something that she did in her past, that is also retribution incurring for that, something that you and Joey did so lovely in the Scream script, I think that could be really cool. And I think that would be really satisfying for the fans of Gale, the person who, no matter what noise was going on, has been in every single movie. You know what I mean? She deserves her through line. She deserves her arc. And yeah, I'll just go riff off what you said. Gale having that moment, I think she's gonna have to confront something in a personal way that gives her a similar moment.
Anthony, how about you?
Yeah, I actually think, because Gale has been in every movie, and Gale is almost just as important in Sydney, but I think something's gonna happen where Gale has to confront it before the finale, and something's gonna bring her and Sydney together. And I think the killers are gonna be just as much after Gale as they are as Sydney. So something's going to bring them together in the third act. But I think, just to compare the Judy Greer scene, I think what's going to end up happening is Tatum is just going to have to face her mom's past, and she's going to have to come to Sydney and hopefully Gale's rescue. That's how she's going to have to embrace it and get involved with what her mom's been going through her whole life. So I think it's really going to be Tatum who really goes to that specific moment that Karen does in 2018.
See, TJ, this is why I keep Anthony around. This is why I like podcasting with him. And he didn't have my points either. I specifically keep them secretive from him and Amar. So you're in the same boat, bitch. Okay, next. Okay, so we have 3 more things. We have
You're going to pay for later. You're going to pay for that one later, Ryan. That's going to be off camera.
Yum. So we'll do, I have 2 more bullet points, and then I have a couple of speed rounds. So, okay. One is, do we think that, I see Halloween 2018 as kind of being, there is an ensemble aspect to it. I mean, Laurie Strode is the backbone, but she isn't like featured in so many of the scenes. It's a weird movie, but I don't think that the young cast dominates it in the same way that like the young cast of like Scream 5 dominates that movie compared to the trio. I actually see Halloween 2018 as the young cast is pretty organized, right? You have like the dance that kind of keeps them together. Like they're not like, I don't feel like the young cast is eating into Laurie Strode, if that makes sense. And I think other things are, you have the cops and you have this and you have that and you have Michael and you have the podcasters. Do we think that the young cast of Scream 7 will also be localized as to not eat away at Nev Campbell and Courtney Cox's screen time? Anthony?
I think that's the way they're going to go, just because Tatum is the through line to have the friends and Sydney together. So I think we're gonna get scenes with Sydney and their friend group too. We didn't really get Laurie in 2018 with anyone other than Allison. So we're gonna get Sydney involved. I know it's rumored. I know we're talking about rumors, but she owns a coffee shop or something. So I could see them all having scenes together in the coffee shop. But I do think they're gonna keep it very much, this is Sydney's story, but the friends are just gonna be kind of like, I don't even think they're gonna be. I think they're gonna be in the movie more than Halloween 2018. But they were also dealing with only like a couple spouses and her best friend in 2018. I think they're gonna be present. I just think they're gonna be able to hopefully blend it much better than they did in 5 and 6 with all these legacy characters and returning characters.
Yeah. TJ, how about you? Or Tom?
Well, I would say I hope they do it better than they did in 4. That'd be my example of where they fumbled the bag crossing the end zone goal line. That's a football reference, Ryan.
What? What's that? Travis Kelce plays football. That's right.
When does that new album come out so you can stop being such an excited little prick all the time?
I am going to, honestly, this fall, I'm going to be insufferable. We have the Scream 7 trailer. We have Taylor Swift's new album.
Just this fall?
Wicked Part 2. I mean, if I have anybody who still messages me after Halloween, it's going to be a miracle.
I saw some meme that's like, because when does this album come out?
Friday.
Yeah, so it said like, imagine this time next week, you might have a new favorite Taylor Swift song. It's like, there's like 500 of these fucking songs already. Y'all need to just calm down.
There's a song called You Need to Calm Down.
Shout out to Ash.
Yeah, we love her.
So what were we talking about?
The new young teens being localized.
Yeah, look, I'm going to be the one that is championing new casts and not you people hanging on to these old farts that need their Depends as they get around set. No.
Says the old man.
Yeah, well, it keeps me youthful to be around the young folks. So I think that, yes, I think they're going to be more present than you might think. And because Sydney will see herself, I know they kind of played with that in Scream 4 to some degree of like Sydney seeing herself in Jill. But I think because this is quite literally her house, this is her daughter, I think she's going to see the experience of her daughter way more in concert with her life than she did with Jill. So I think as a reflection of that, keeping the spirit of the kid and the friend group alive is going to be essential to Sydney's arc, where I don't really think like Jill and the arc of that, even though it did tie into the motive, I don't really think it was that critical in terms of like aligning those two characters. So I think with that being said, I do think it's going to have a pretty pivotal impact. And I think they're going to do everything they can to put those young characters in situations with Chad and Mindy and with Gail and other characters so that they can share a lot of screen time and make them one big cast. So I think they're going to be in it more than we think.
I think it's going to be like H2O localized. And TJ once again proves that he does not understand Scream 4.
Don't understand? I think I understand it too well, honestly.
All right, so the last big point before we go into the speed round is like the finale. Like Laurie gets the finale of Halloween 2018 to herself, and like it's her big moment to shine. She has a big iconic imagery moment with like the door and the gun and Michael coming through the door. But she gets it to herself for the most part. I think that it will be the same with Sydney. I think Sydney's going to rock the finale. I think even Tatum isn't going to be so present. I think it's going to be Sydney versus the killers. At least that's what I want. I do think it's going to be less cat and mouse. Like there's a lot of like suspense building in the Halloween 2018 finale. I think it's going to be less of that and more, interaction and fight like we have, obviously Scream 2 or Scream 3. So Anthony, what are your thoughts?
I think that the finale is going to be Sydney, Gail, and Tatum, but there is going to be a portion where Sydney is alone with the killer, whether that's the reveal or whatever, but obviously Sydney's going to have her time alone in the finale with the killer, just like, in my opinion, the best 1 and 2 and 3 are the best. But yeah, it's going to be Sydney, Gail, Tatum, but Sydney will have her moment alone because, it's Nev Campbell, Sydney Prescott. She has to have that moment. Yeah, for sure.
Tom here. I think I disagree with you, Ryan Showers, as I'm one to do. I think there is going to be more of a chase cat and mouse aspect to the finale. I think, again, that desire to bring those chases and those set pieces and those sequences, and obviously a big rumble in the jungle is a set piece on its own. But I do think I think that is one of the more successful parts of 2018 when they allow it to build suspense and be scary. I just got done doing a very, very intense rewatch of Scream 2 for our Scream 2 What If episode. God damn, those sequences are awesome. The suspense
So good.
and the way they let the sequences breathe, whether it's the film school chase or it's the sequence in the car, like the way they give it some room to breathe. I think, and especially too, we've heard that they don't want this one to be too gory. Again, I referenced the book. I guess one of the first conversations Nev had with Kev was like, I don't want this to be as violent as the more recent ones, but I bet they replace that violence with tension, and I bet that they lean into trying to make this scary as shit through building tension and suspense rather than blood and guts. So I'm gonna say the climactic does have a bit more of a cat and mouse element, and it's not just we're tossing people over the kitchen counter and setting them on fire and stuff. It feels like they've done that between 5 and 6 was so much of that in the finale. I think they'll probably go the other way.
Okay. So now we're going to end with very specific things that happened in 2018. Yay or nay, speed round. Will this happen in Scream 7? Okay. So 1, let's start. And we'll go Ryan, Anthony, TJ. So will we see fire? Will a house be set on fire? Ryan says yes.
Yes, Ryan. I think there will be fire. It's like
Will
the
there be-
fire that burns within me for doing this podcast with you on a regular basis.
Yeah, the sexual chemistry. Do we think that there will be a secret passageway like Laurie has in her house, in Sydney's house? I'm going to say no. Anthony?
I'm going to say yes.
TJ?
I don't know about a secret passageway, but I do think there will be some sort of planning that is involved in the house that reflects her ability to be ready for the fight when it comes. I don't know if it'll be a tunnel or a weapons room or safe room or whatever, but something to that effect. I'll say yes.
All right. So we see there's a big moment in Halloween 2018 where Laurie is handing out guns to Karen and the husband. Do we think we'll see something similar here with Sydney handing out weapons to the survivors or her family or something like that? I'm going to say yes. Anthony?
I'm going to say yes, too. Yeah, she's definitely prepared.
TJ?
Yeah, she ad-libbed, I'm fucking Prescott, of course I have a gun,
Yeah.
right? So I think she thinks as Sydney, she's big on self-defense, that one. So yes.
Will the finale be at her house? I don't know. I don't know where the finale is going to be. I would love to see the finale like in the woods, kind of like, the shots of like Allison running through the woods. I was kind of inspired by that. I don't know. What do you think? Anthony?
I think that she's going to be lured somewhere else. I don't think it's going to be them coming to her. I kind of feel like, I hope it's somewhere, like you said, somewhere different, but I hope it's not just in a traditional house set piece. I don't know. I think she's going to be lured with Gail somewhere.
Producer Jones?
Really interesting question. Honestly,
It is,
I'm
yeah.
not being silly. Like that is a really interesting question because it's not in Woodsboro, right? So you would default to thinking that it would be someplace in Woodsboro. I know you just said say yay or nay, but deal with it, Ryan. But because they're in this new town, her home life would be like the emotional core, and that would make the most sense to get to the emotional aspect of the climax. So with all that, I'm gonna say yes, it does take place at her home, for better or
All
worse.
right. Do we think that so we see Hawkins run over Michael with a car. Do we think that Ghostface will be run over with a car? I'm going to say yes. Anthony?
I don't think I hope he's not just run over by a car. I want to see something more violent.
All right. Tom?
Gets hit by a car. I don't think he gets run over, but I think he survives.
Do we think that, so Laurie gets stabbed in the stomach or the abdomen badly in the finale. Do we think that Sydney will have a similar really horrible injury? I'm going to say no. Anthony?
No, she just got stabbed in 5, and I don't want repeats of stabbings not meaning stuff in these movies, again.
TJ?
Wouldn't it be so great if she never got stabbed in 5? Those little bitch-ass killers didn't get a wound on her and she walked away with no scrapes. Wouldn't that have been awesome? That being said, she has to get a wound. I don't think it's going to be a stomach wound. Maybe she takes a nice slice to the arm or something, but she has to come out of this battered. So I'd say yes, she gets a pretty significant wound of some sort.
And the last thing here is Halloween 2018 famously ends with Laurie, Allison, and Karen, the three of them, 3 different generations, this big message of final girl feminism. We have 3 final girls. We have Tatum, Gail, and Sydney. Do we think that there's going to be something recreated here, whether they're all in a final fight together or it ends with the 3 of them in the same way that Halloween 2018 did? I'm going to say yes. Kevin Williamson is going to do that. The Halloween obsessed guy doing the requel era, he's going to do it. Anthony, how about you?
100%. He's going to do that. I don't know if it's going to be like a, happy moment, but they're going to be together at the end for sure. And I kind of hope, I know this is going against everything the screen does, but I want something left unanswered. Maybe not like 100% a cliffhanger, but something left unanswered to lead us into 8 if we're going to have them. But yeah, those 3 will definitely be together at the end for sure.
And Anthony, tell everybody where they can find you online.
You can guys find me on my Never Split Up podcast with my buddy Nolan and just Ant Tapuzo on Twitter.
If you ever
And-
want a handsome guy from LA to be a guest, you know where to call me.
We'll definitely take you up on that.
And TJ, what do you think? Imagery?
My gut tells me that probably, but I'm gonna say it would feel so much like Sam, Gale, and Sydney from 5, and it would feel so much like 2018. But then you think, what is Gale really gonna like sustain some injury and be out for the count like she's been like a million times already, which would be kind of lame. Maybe it'd be cool if it's just Gale and the daughter standing and Sydney's out for the count but not dead. So I'm gonna zag here and say no, it is not some epic the 3 women at the very end. That one of the maybe the daughter is compromised. Maybe the daughter is compromised and not killed. So it is. Let's say that. That's my prediction. Gale and Sydney, the 2 towers, baby, standing there at the end, and the daughter is hemmed up in an ambulance somewhere and doing just fine.
Beautiful. And TJ, where can they find you besides at Ryan Showers' bitch?
Yeah, unfortunately, you can find me being a slave to at Ryan C. Showers on his podcast in every way, shape, and form. I'm really on Instagram only, and it's at Jones Hip Hop. And I'm also helping a new thriving Survivor podcast called Survivor Squared, which is a lot of fun. We had the new season of Survivor just started. We had one of the runner-ups from last season as our guest to start the new season. That's really fun. If you like Survivor, check out that Survivor Squared. And yeah, check me out on Scream with Ryan C. Showers. Listen to What If episode coming out for Scream 2. That's a heater. I just listened to the first draft. I can't wait for everyone to hear it. Let's go.
All right. Everybody, thank you so much. We will see you next time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this segment of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me. And even though it sounded as though we just wrapped up the episode with the end of the main segment about Halloween 2018 and how it could potentially inspire Scream 7, we are going to begin again. Joining me for this segment, I have my friend and producer, Ashley from Squirrel and Spud. Hey, Ashley.
Hi, and hi, everybody. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm good. Are you ready to begin again?
I'm always ready to begin again.
So, Ashley, what is the Taylor Swift song of the day?
Well, the Taylor Swift song is Begin Again. This is track 16 off of Red. It was written by Taylor Swift, produced by Nathan Chapman or Christopher Rowe, depending on which version you listen to. And this song, if I was going to give it like a blank statement of what it was about, I would say it's about starting over after a breakup and kind of discovering what was missing from that relationship as you feel like you're able to move on and notice how maybe someone else treats you or maybe just how you're feeling in your own skin without that other person around.
Yeah. So I have to ask, what are your, do you like Begin Again? Is it like, in terms of Red, do you rank it higher, middle, lower?
Oh, it's super high. Begin Again's always been one of my favorite songs. I think it's just really inspiring. And I love the melody of it. I feel like everybody can relate to it. I think I say that every episode, but I feel like people can relate to the fact that she's saying like when she says like, you think I'm funny, but he never did, or and stuff like that. And that like makes me it's so sad, but it's also so exciting at the same time. And I think sometimes like we romanticize things, relationships in the past, and I know I'm super guilty of it. And then all of a sudden, like when you're treated properly, you're like, wow, this is so much easier and so much more refreshing and fun. And like, I don't need to have like any fake interests or something. Like this person is just interested in me as an individual. And I feel like that's kind of what Begin Again is about, is like realizing that you're interesting on your own without having to deep dive into something that your partner loves.
So, I mean, this is it's deep. This song and what it means, it goes really deep for all the reasons Ashley just said. It is one of my favorites. I would probably put it in top 5 of Red. Even though it's a very simple song, it's very calm and peaceful. It is optimistic. The way I see it is like someone coming out of like hibernation, coming out of a cave and kind of starting to like see the world again after being in a really dark place. And I think it's important to understand the context of where Begin Again is in the Red universe. So it's the last track on Red. And Red, we've described it as like this being this like, it's an album about a really like your first big devastating heartbreak and the ups and downs and the windy turns of that. And after all of those emotions and after that really sad energy, I think it was important for Taylor, to end this album on this note of like hope. Things are getting better or the world is open to a new possibility. So I think it's a perfect song to end the standard edition of Red on.
I think it's a really nice way to end a breakup album. Like this album, I love how it ends this way because there is like this song is still a breakup song. So it still fits perfectly on the album, but it just makes you feel like there's hope and then that she has hope. And I feel like one of the best things that Taylor always does is like her closing track usually is something really interesting and kind of is like a caveat to like the next era, like something is what's coming on to the next one, or it closes a chapter really well. One of my favorite things is Taylor's track lists. I love how she composes her albums. I tend to listen to albums in the order that they're in, unless I'm doing shuffle on literally her entire discography. Like I want to listen to Red in order because I feel like it just feels right.
Well, and the thing about Red too and this song is I think you can look at this song, of course, it's meant to be talking about a relationship and like that, sending that hopeful message of like, the world isn't going to end. You're going to have another opportunity at a good relationship and to move on and come out of these horrible feelings. How it's spoken to me over the years is more so just about life in general. Like when one thing ends, something else begins. And every time like I'm in, or when I've been in a bad situation with, or, and then I get to move on to something different, I felt like this. I felt the way that Taylor describes moving on from a mean, critical, demeaning, strong personality type of relationship to somebody who's actually kind. And like, there are better options out there, and people, just because one person treated you a certain way doesn't mean that everyone else is that way. So when you experience someone who is genuinely kind, it's odd. It's like, this actually, it doesn't have to be like this.
This song can be related to so many relationships. And that's one of the reasons why I love Taylor's storytelling, is because I really do believe that you can relate to so many of these songs for different reasons. Like Begin Again is such like a nice one to have in your playlist to like bring out when you need it. Cause I feel like that's my favorite thing about Taylor, is that there's really a song for everything. And I feel like she gets like this rap of like, that's not who she's like known as. Yeah. She's known as like the breakup girl, or only singing about relationships, which like obviously that's true to an extent, but so is literally every single singer-songwriter on the planet. Most of them sing about love of some sort, relationships of some sort. But like this can be related to like, it could be related to like a parent and how one parent treats you versus another. It could be how you feel with your job, or even it could be something like where you, like if you were studying to be one thing and then realizing, you know what, this isn't right for me. I should be doing something else. And just how you feel so much more like you can breathe again when you're in that discovering something new for yourself. It doesn't have to be a person or a relationship that you're discovering. It could just be, and Taylor just, especially with this song, it just feels so good and if you're not feeling this way, it gives you hope to feel this way, I feel like. So
well, we all need hope, right? It's to keep going on. And sometimes like it's so easy to feel as though the world is ending when you're going through any type of emotional hardship. And I think like Begin Again is such a nice song because yes, everything will begin again. Everything will start over. And if you're open to things getting better, it will. So I do want to go through some of the lyrics because I love this song. Again, it's a very simple song. Like there's not a lot of razzle dazzle to it, but it's so effective. And I feel like it paints such a picture of a story, but it's a story but almost like a fable. So I want to start with the lyrics that are about the insecurities from a previous relationship and like points that you're vulnerable about yourself. So she sings, "He didn't like it when I wore high heels, but I do. He always said he didn't get the song, but I do. I walked in expecting you'd be late, but you got here early and you stand and wave." And like, so I just like all of those things really hit me deep. And I don't know, because I've definitely been with people who don't like the type of shoes that I'm wearing or say that like they don't understand this certain thing. Why do you like this? This is stupid. And like then it becoming internalized in me and then almost being on high alert, you know what I mean? And so I feel like this is so relatable. And it's just like, I also like that this is her reclaiming back her power, almost like she was training herself. We're going to use Jake Gyllenhaal because that's who this is about, right? That she almost trained herself to appease what Jake was kind of putting her down about. And now that he's over, she can breathe and she can be like, wait, no, I do like wearing high heels. He made me think that I didn't, but I do. I like this song and he's stupid for not getting it. And like, not all guys are bad. Some guys don't come in late, Mr. Gyllenhaal. Some guys come in early and they wave and they smile at you.
I can't relate to this very specific moment, but for tall girls, I think her saying like he didn't like it when I wore high heels, but I do. Because like every tall girl that I know has a guy who's told her, don't wear high heels when you're around me because he can't handle her being as tall or taller than him. And I'm like, dude, do you know how hot it would be if you didn't care? It's so much more hot if you don't care that she's a little bit taller than you or whatever it is. If your partner's okay with it, like, why do you care? Like, that's so weird. Like you could have Taylor Swift on your arm, but you're going to be a little bitch about it and be like, oh my God, don't wear high heels because we're going to be the same height or whatever. I'm like, that's weird. Understand it. I completely agree with you about just saying like, when she's saying like, he always said he didn't get this song. And I feel like that's her saying like, I wanted to share something with you, but you didn't care enough to like listen or to hear what I had to say about it. It's really fun when you can meet someone who, even if your interests aren't the exact same, they still care about something because you do. Like when somebody who isn't a huge Taylor fan sends me info about Taylor and is like, hey, like, did you see this? That's so nice. And it makes me feel loved by whoever that person is. I mean, I've probably already heard it, but usually the only people who can surprise me are other like huge Taylor Swift fans, but it's still super nice. Like having a person care about what you have to say or what you're interested in.
Yeah.
If you haven't felt like you've been treated nicely for a long time, someone doing like the basic thing, like holding a door open for you, you're like, oh my God, thank you so much.
And I think like that's like that's part of the healing of this song is realizing, oh wait, not all men are terrible. Not because like, I think especially when you get into these bad relationships, sometimes you feel like you become cynical and you become desensitized to the fact that there are good people out there. And even I felt like that in my life, so let's just run through some of the other examples here. So she says, you never met one girl who had as many James Taylor records as you, but I do. And that's funny because she is named after James Taylor. We tell stories and you don't know why. I'm coming off a little shy, but I do. That one hits me hard. It's like, you don't know why I'm coming off a little shy, but yeah, but there's a reason. And then I think it's strange that you think I'm funny because he never did. And with that, so if Jake Gyllenhaal said this to Taylor, TJ Jones said this to me. He said, Ryan, you are the funniest unfunny person. So, I think it's strange that people think I'm funny because TJ never did. So anyway.
That's so funny. TJ, you dick.
And then the bridge is, and we walked down the block to my car and I almost brought him up, but you start to talk about the movies that your family watches every single Christmas. And I want to talk about that. And for the first time, what's past is past. Oh my God, this one hits me really hard because I had a breakup with somebody I was with for a while. And the next person I was romantically interested in, I remember being on like the first 1 or 2 dates with them, and I was trying so hard not to bring up my ex. It was painful for me, and every time I would almost bring him up, that phrase, and I almost brought him up, but you, blah, blah, blah. That I feel that in my soul.
Yep. I feel like I've definitely been guilty of like talking about things that maybe like at a certain point would be appropriate, but maybe not like on the first date, just because it makes people uncomfortable.
I like this too, that like whenever he brings up something different, she is like, I want to talk about that, and also being touched like, oh, you're telling me this thing about your family. Like, this is nice. This is something new. And I love this. Like, again, we're talking about the healing of Red. We've gone through All Too Well. We've gone through Sad, Beautiful, Tragic. We've gone through The Moment I Knew. And for the first time, what's past is past. It's just like, and that's the end of the bridge. It's so, so beautiful. The big line of Begin Again, and she says this basically at the end of every chorus, but on a Wednesday, in a cafe, I watched it begin again. So, what's funny is Katy Perry, I know she's not in vogue right now, but she's talked about this lyric many times about being one of her favorite lyrics that Taylor has ever written, which I think is cool. I don't know. I think it's sweet.
Yeah, I love it too, because I just feel like you can visualize it, you can see it, you can hope for it. Whatever it is, like when you're listening to this song, it makes you feel good no matter what it is. Like even if it's like just for her in the song, you're like, yeah, girl, like I'm glad that you had that moment. But on a Wednesday in a cafe, like I can literally picture her sitting there and being like, oh shit, like I'm not like so undesirable. And there are people out there who find me interesting.
Well, and also it's just I like the phrasing of it on a Wednesday, which is hump day. Nothing interesting happens on a Wednesday, right? It's just the middle of the week, in a cafe, which is cafes aren't even technically like full on restaurants, right? So it's just like something so simple and so passing. It's just like beautiful, the poetry in that. Like on a Wednesday in a cafe, I watched it start again. Like, that's beautiful. It's just such a nice note to basically end the first, the standard edition of Red. So
And it feels attainable to most people. It's not like on a Saturday night at the Met Gala. It's like on a Wednesday in a cafe.
as I was eating caviar, right? No. So, and this is a solo writing credit for Taylor, as Ashley mentioned earlier. And it received a nomination at the Grammys for Best Country Song. And I definitely feel like in the original version, it being a country song comes across. Like it feels just how slow it is, how simple it is. It's just like the storytelling of it all. It feels like a country song. It's so cool. And I will say this, Ashley and I, we have a little, not a rivalry, but Ashley is pro original and I'm pro Taylor's version. This is one of the songs that I listened to, and I remember texting Ashley and being like, holy shit, the original is so good. Probably better than Taylor's version. I do like the Taylor's version. I listened to both. I don't know. I like them both.
I think I like them both too. And it's funny because like I've never really thought about it being like more country heavy, but I guess it is.
Ash, so the reason we picked Begin Again for today's episode is because the episode is about Halloween 2018, how it could inspire Scream 7, because I think that Scream 7 is more relatable to Halloween H2O. And this is kind of the sequel. So we did the prophecy for that one, which is one of my favorite songs. So I was like, we have to do one of my favorite songs for this one, So with Halloween 2018, what they did was they kind of erased every sequel to come after 1978. So they really began again, with the filmmaking of that. And that's a very extreme version of Begin Again, in my opinion. It's like JLC and David Gordon Green, chill a little bit, but it's funny. Like that's how they began again. And like Halloween specifically, it began again so many times, right? Began again, with Jamie Lloyd. It began again with H2O. It began again with the remakes. It began again with the Blumhouse trilogy. So it's just interesting. The thing about it is like the idea of beginning again. I don't think Scream 7 is going to begin again in the way that 2018 began again. I think it will be continuous. And it's interesting because Scream, I would say like 1, 2, and 3, there's no begin again moment. 4 is a begin again moment, I think. And then 5 is a begin again moment. And now here we are with Scream 7, which is, I don't know, it could be a begin again moment. It probably is. Yeah, it's probably a begin again moment. What do you think?
Maybe like a restart
Yes.
moment instead of like a let's try again. I don't know. I would be like, there is part of me that would love for it to almost be like in a separate world, like a separate universe where 5 and 6 didn't happen, just because like I feel like that could be an interesting story plot line, like to start without that happening. But I would also be really disappointed because I'd be like, there was a lot of like love put into some of those movies, and I think there's a lot of love into some of those characters. And I don't want Tara and Sam to just like be erased just because like they're not going to be in this movie. But I'm excited to see what happens. I hope it's more of like a restarting, like a refresh of all of these characters and learning how to navigate the world after 5 and 6 versus forgetting that it happened, if that makes sense.
That's a good way to put it. Ash, where can they find you online?
You can find me at SquirrelandSpud9 on Instagram. There you'll find my store and the Scream Game of the Week that Ryan and I make every Wednesday. You can watch us begin again on a new game every Wednesday.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next time.
All copyrighted material used or referenced in this show belong to their rightful owners and made possible by the Fair Use Act.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
Get another beer, you want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!